Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to MDZ Music, where we talk about our songwriting process. My name is Eli Mendez. Please make sure to follow me on all social media at Eli Mendez 1109. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications to see brand new shows. MATTIX wasn't able to make this series. You can catch him on our next series. In this 3-episode series, I'm going to be talking about how I wrote the song Places. And on today's episode, I'm going to cover the process on how to write a verse and where to find the placement within the beat to write that verse and how I wrote this specific verse for Places. Let's get started. Okay, so remember, like we've talked about before, when you're starting your songwriting process, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to think of a concept. And then you're going to want to write down as many words as you can think of to describe that concept. And none of it has to make sense yet. You just want to paint the picture of the idea in words so people can visualize kind of what you're trying to talk about. And also, when you're thinking of your concept and you're writing your song, it doesn't matter what part of the song you write first. You can start with the chorus or the verse. I think for me, writing the chorus first helps me out because I can see it spatially, and it makes me feel like I'm further along in the song, and so it helps me fill in the other spaces, and that's when I start with the verses. But if you're going to start with the verse or the chorus, it doesn't matter. Like I said, the first thing you want to do is to think of that concept, and like I said, write down as many words as you can think of. So for an example, with Places, what I started doing was I had the idea of being in a different place and wanting to write a song about missing home, but no matter who I was with, I could be anywhere in the world as long as I'm with that person, and it makes me feel like I am home. And so I would just think of when we went traveling, I was just thinking of all the things that we kind of went through, the different places that we went to, how I felt in those moments. I tried to paint the picture of walking, of being in the mountains, and I also tried to paint the picture of being on the plane, the actual traveling with the plane. And I wrote down as many descriptive words as I can think of to describe what I thought would be the song Places. And at first it didn't make sense. I was just writing words down, and then I started to put it together, and that's one of the things that you'll want to do. But that's just an example for this song Places. So one of the most common formats for songwriting, and we've talked about this before, is the format structure is going to be the chorus, verse 1, then the chorus, verse 2, and then a bridge, and then the chorus. But you could do it however you want to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to have that specific structure. That's just the most common structure. So when you start your songwriting process, be thinking of that, and then you can kind of change it to however you want to do it. An example, so like I said, that's just the structure. So an example is for Places, I started with the verse. So I did verse 1, and then I actually did a pre-chorus, and then I have the chorus, and then I did like a pre-verse, and then I went into the second verse, and then I have the pre-chorus again, the chorus, and then another pre-verse, and then verse 3, and then the pre-chorus and a chorus. And it's all over the place, I know, but for this specific song, the way it sounded, the way the beat was, I felt like this is just kind of what I came up with. And like I said, you can do it however you want to do it. You don't necessarily have to have bridges or choruses. It could just be verses. You could do pre-verses, pre-choruses, outros, and like I said, we'll talk more about that stuff as we get into those other songs. But this is just the format for this, the structure for this song, Places. So the concept behind Places, like I said, is being in a different place and missing home, but being with the person that you want to be with, and you feel like you're home. But for the first verse, what I did was we were actually walking down a road in Luxembourg, and the road, it was at night, and we were going back to our friend's house, and the road was called Mamer Road. And so the idea didn't come to me until just one day. I was like, you know what, I'm going to describe walking down that road and kind of what I saw. And so what I did is I just thought back, and I remember we were walking, it was misty, it was kind of foggy, it was dark. I felt lost. We were trying to get to their house with our GPS on our phones, trying to figure out which way we needed to walk. And so it starts off by saying, walking down Mamer Road. We're alone, I'm missing home. And it just painting the picture of the idea of actually walking and kind of being lost, and it being, like I said, it being misty, and then us finally getting to where we needed to be. But the whole time we were walking, I just felt like I was just looking around trying to figure out where I was. And that's kind of the concept behind the verse. And then each verse is like that. Verse 2 is another. It just talks about another moment on our trip. It just talks about being on like a gondola going up into the mountain and describing that moment. And then the last verse is talking about being on the airplane and experiencing the different time changes. And I say airwaves, and that's just the plane flying. But those different moments, I tried to paint describe those specific parts on the trip, and I tied it all together. And so that's how I came up with the concept for the verses. So next I'm going to play each verse with the lyrics, and then you can see what it says, how it sounds like, and then I'll explain how I got to those specific points in terms of the melodies. So this is verse 1. Walking down it, Mamer road, we're alone, I'm missing home, baby. And this next part is going to be verse 2. So high, way up, we're staring face to face, looking down it, I see clouds separate. And then this part is verse 3. Airwaves, yeah, distant situations, I'm with you, babe, it starts to feel the same. So for each verse, you can use the same melody as you're transitioning from verse 1 to verse 2, or if there's multiple verses, or you can change with the melody. Usually what I'll do is I'll keep the same melody. I might change up some small things here and there, but specifically in this song, I kept the same melody for the verses. It's different from the chorus, but I feel like it's a little bit slower. And you can see that when you listen to each verse, you can actually hear the same melody, just different wording. I just, fit in some of those words that I started writing down. So next I'm going to talk about how to find the placement within the beat, of the verse. And, once you see the beat, for me, once I load the beat, I actually I listen to the song, I listen to the beat, and I usually can tell kind of where I think verses and choruses might go. But then I'll load the beat, and then I'll look at it, and I'll listen to it, and I'll look at it, and I'll see that in certain parts it might be bigger or smaller specifically, and that'll look. And then I'll show you, once you have the beat loaded, I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so once you have your beat loaded, you can actually look at it, and you can see how in some spots it's smaller right here, and then in some spots it's bigger, right? So when I listened to it, I felt like maybe the bigger parts are going to be either the chorus or the verses. So we talked about the chorus in the previous episode, how the chorus was going to be this last part where it's a little bit bigger. When you listen to it, it definitely does get bigger. But the verse is big as well, but it's not quite as big in terms of the sound. And so the first verse was right here. So this was verse 1. So verse 1. Then we move over. You have verse 2. And then you move over again. And then you have verse 3. Right here. So right where I'm circling. And then you can see right here where it changes. Right there specifically, it gets a little bit bigger, more sound. And so that's how I was able to find the placements within the beat for the verses. So after I found the placement of where I want to put the verse, then I'll start my mumbling process. And what I'll do is I'll do multiple takes, and I'm just mumbling words. And they're not even full words, or just don't even make sense, the sound. I'm just trying to find the sound that best fits with where I think the verse is going to go. And I'll mumble multiple takes, like I said, and then I'll listen to all the ones that I do, and then I'll either combine all of them, or I'll combine some parts, or I'll just pick the one I like best, and then that's how I'm able to find the mumble or the melody that I'm looking for, just mumbling on multiple takes. So an example of that will look something like this. Walking down that Mamer road, we're alone, I'm missing home, baby. Okay, as you're doing your mumbling process or doing your mumbling phase, one of the things it's good to do is start looking at the words that you've written down, and then start fitting words into the mumble. And then what you'll want to do is start fitting in sentences into that mumbled melody. And that's how you're able to write, and make everything fit. So you want to think of the melody first, and this is what helps me out the most. Think of the melody first, and then start fitting in some of the words you've written down. Start trying to rhyme words, and then try to do complete sentences. And still, it doesn't really quite have to make sense yet. You're just still trying to fit these ideas and the lyrics into the melody that you just created. Also, it's okay to use some of the same words you've used in other parts of the song. And it's okay because what you're trying to do is paint the picture of the idea. So you can use, so the song is called Places. I say places in multiple parts of the song. I'm trying to paint the idea of what I think the song in my head is going to look like or sound like. Also, there's no right or wrong way to write a song or create melodies. This is just a technique that I use, and it helps me out. You can do it in any order. You can just write lyrics without having a melody and then create the melody later. But for me, I feel like it's just easiest to come up with the melody for a beat that I like, and then start thinking of concepts that I want to write about. And like I said, I'll start, writing words, and then I'll fit some of those lyrics into the melody, and then the song starts to come to life. And to me, it's just easier to fit in words to a melody that you have, as opposed to having a word and trying to create a melody off that word. To me, it's harder. So that's why I try to do the melody first. But you can do it however you want to do it. There's no right or wrong way. This is just a technique that I use. So for my personal preference for the overall sound, I do like to use pitch correction, and I also like to use a late reverb sound. That's the sound that I'm into right now. But what you want to do is you want to find your sound. And one of the most important things is creating a sound that you like, and doing it for yourself because it makes you happy, and that's the sound that you wanted to end up going with. There's no such thing as the best song in the world. It's all going to be based on opinions, and it's going to be based off of what you like. As long as you create music that you love, that you listen to, and you say, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted it to sound like. I think eventually you'll find people who are interested in that same sound, and then they'll eventually find your music. You just keep putting it out there, and try not to go the route of pleasing everybody. But as long as you please yourself, like I said, you're gonna have people who may not like that specific song or sound. It doesn't mean it's a bad song at all. They just don't like the sound of it. And that just goes to all based on opinions. Everybody likes the sound of music that they like. So just keep doing it for yourself. And like I said, find those people, or you either find them or they'll find you. You start putting it out there. And then, of course, you want to practice. Keep practicing. Like I said, it does get easier. The more you practice, the more songwriting the more lyrics that you write, the more songs that you write, the more melodies you create. The process will get easier. It'll just start to be a routine that you do. And then the last thing is that you want to have fun. That's the whole point of doing all this. Is obviously it's what makes you happy. This is something that you want to get into. So do it for yourself, and then have fun doing it. Hey guys, thanks for watching MDZ Music. My name is Eli Mendez. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications to see brand new shows. Also, make sure to follow me on all social media to hear any current music that I'm working on. If you want to hear the full version of Places, the link is in the description below. Also, if you want to hear any more of my music, you can find it on all digital outlets: Apple Music, Spotify. It's on YouTube. Go check some of that stuff out.